Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us this morning. This is Cindy Curley. We're just going to give it one more minute to let a couple of people join, and just want to confirm, Clayton, I've unmuted you, so you should be live as well.
I'm here.
Great. Okay, great. We've got a good number of folks on the line here, so I don't want to keep anybody waiting. We'll just go ahead and kick things off. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about a specific contract vehicle that Tevora holds that can help expedite the purchasing and procurement process and potentially help avoid the long RFP process. Again, my name is Cindy Curley. I'm the account director for our public sector business, and I am joined by Clayton Ryness, who is our managing director of our threat and solutions practice areas. We're going to run through the agenda real quickly here. Introductions. I just introduced Clayton and myself. Clayton's going to run in a little bit about who Tevora is. Might be some of you folks on the line here today who have not heard of us, and we'd like to just give you a few minutes of a background on who we are and what we do. I'm going to jump into an overview of the Regional Cooperative Agreement, what it is, and why it was set up. And then Clayton's going to kind of run back through the services that are available under the agreement. And then I am going to jump back in and talk about the process for purchasing. And then we're going to go ahead and wrap with questions. We've got everybody muted just for clean audio purposes. So we ask that you put your questions in the chat box. You can do that anytime during the recording, and then we will address the questions at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to you, Clayton.
Yeah, so Tevora, we are a pure play cybersecurity consultancy. We've been around since 2003. We don't really handle necessarily straight IT work. It's always been security through and through. And for us, that really means having a full suite of services that really run the gamut of information security. So we are based in Orange County, so central Orange County, Lake Forest. We also have offices in New York. Most of our client base is traditionally in Western states. We handle large enterprises to mid-market to public sector. Really all states, all sizes of municipalities are really in our wheelhouse. So that's us at a 10,000-foot view. Really our distinctions are around having a lasting legacy with our clients and having that relationship that we've leveraged over the years. And that's been noted by our participation in Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies, also the Cybersecurity 500 hottest companies. So again, our growth path is pretty strong, but we've been always focused on making sure that we have a long and lasting relationship with our clients. And do that, it really comes down to trust. So we're not trying to just slam projects through and go on to the next one. For us, it's about taking the long view, which is relatively unique in the cybersecurity space, given how fast it's growing. Our certifications are numerous. Some of the highlights here, PCI. PCI has been a big one since the beginning. We've been a QSA. We do a lot of work around SOC, SOC 1, SOC 2s, ISO 27000 series, and the ISO and high trust, really high trust, HIPAA high trust. Have a large healthcare practice around that as well. There's a long list of other certifications that we either certify on or help our clients do gap assessments against as well. Taking a look at our practice areas, we have a full-fledged compliance practice, which handles most of the standards I just mentioned. We can handle certification, we can handle doing a gap assessment, remediation work, you name it. We've helped our clients become compliant. We do a lot around security solutions. So we partner with everybody in this space. If you've been to RSA and Black Hat, you know how many vendors are out there. We help our clients weed through who's hot, who's not, who's got the real deal, who doesn't. And in certain cases, we also integrate or do the implementation work for those solutions as well. We have a lot around data privacy. So GDPR being a big thing, becoming even bigger here in the next year or so. We've helped our clients, again, meet that standard if they're operating in Western Europe or worldwide. We have a full risk management program or risk management practice, usually aligned to NIST or ISO. And what we've really been able to do is take cybersecurity risk, normalize it so it can roll up into a larger risk treatment plan that's really digestible by the business at large. So oftentimes our clients have been struggling with, how do I take these vulnerabilities, how do I take these operational risks and really speak to the business, and we've helped our clients be able to do that. We do a lot around threat management. This is the offensive security part of what we do, the pen testing, the ethical hacking, a lot of red teaming, a lot of network, web application, mobile API penetration testing. That's also in our wheelhouse. We do a lot around incident response as well. So the blue teaming part of it, or the blue team advisory work, a lot of proactive work around readiness assessments. Am I ready for a breach? Do I have a run book? Do I have that evacuation plan, basically, for that fire that may happen? And of course, incident response work for when there is an emergency. So boots on the ground, guys ready to respond and really contain and remove an advanced threat. And again, the benefits really for us are taking the long view with our clients, that mutually beneficial relationship, that idea that we're bringing really to bear the right consultants with the right level of expertise. We don't have a large offshore team. We have no offshore team. It's all domestic employees, full-time employees. We don't use contractors. We've got folks here that go through our background check process that are invested in Tevora and in turn are invested in our clients. Again, we treat this as a two-way partnership, not about really Tevora providing services to various clients. So we really take that to heart. Our client list rather covers all verticals. We have financial services. We have entertainment, manufacturing, hospitality, you name it. So everybody's got some level of cybersecurity risk. Operationally, usually pretty different. Some are high margin, some are low margin, some have large flat networks, some are monolithic. And either way, there's some level of risk based on the data that they have or how they transact or how they do business. And we've been able to scale our services either up or down to meet their needs, and also be able to be flexible enough to meet whatever kind of operational demand is required. So I think we've been very successful in carving out a niche and relate all of these areas. Taking a look at the public sector, we have state, local, municipalities, we have cities, we have contractors that work primarily or only with public sector in a lot of cases. So these are folks we've done various levels of work with. Some it's just one or two types of projects in one practice area. Some it can be multiple. And that's really, again, where we're taking the long view with our clients is we may start with just a pen test, we may start with some integration work, but ultimately through the relationships that we build, it can become much more if that's something that's an option for the third party.
Great, thank you so much, Clayton. Now I'm going to take back over here and run through what this regional cooperative agreement is. In case you're not familiar with the acronym RCA, Regional Cooperative Agreement, we're going to refer to it in short as RCA throughout this presentation here. This particular cooperative agreement was created by the County of Orange Executive Office, otherwise known as OCIT. It's a contract for a consulting firm to provide the county with cybersecurity assessment and audit services. It was created as an RCA, not only to help the County of Orange, but also to help other public sector organizations be nimble and be able to address cybersecurity services quickly without having to go through a long RFP cycle. Tevora was awarded the contract through an RFP process on April 11th, 2017. The contract is valid for 3 years plus 2 one-year renewal options. So we're about, a year in. So we should still have a good, couple years left on the contract for y'all to be able to take advantage of some of the services. And then I'm going to just pass it quickly back to Clayton to talk about the actual services that are included under this cooperative agreement.
Yeah, exactly. Just to give you a little more flavor on how this would work in practice. So starting at the top, we do a lot of HIPAA risk assessments. So you may handle healthcare information directly. You may be a provider or payer. That's okay. We have services for that. If you're just a large department and you have a lot of HR information, a lot of this can fall under HIPAA, which is, of course, regulated by the FTC and fines are real. So we help our clients basically get to a point where they're comfortable with the level of risk that they have based on the controls for their HIPAA data that they do carry. So there's penetration testing. Again, this is your internal, external, physical, social engineering. We do a lot of physical work, especially for state and local municipalities. So it really comes down to, do you have the right perimeter security in place? And even in certain cases where there's potentially sensitive information internally, so there could be secure areas within a building. We really handle all of those. Obviously, we're not trying to trigger an armed response, but we're doing a lot of work to basically test and validate that the controls are in place and they're working, and do that third-party validation. A lot of social engineering, phishing or phone phishing, where we're calling people, social engineering them that way. Also doing email phishing, so we can drop malicious payloads, use that as a jumping off point for an internal pen test. All of that's in there as well. A lot of network security assessments. So do you have the right controls in place to handle ingress and egress traffic monitoring? If there was a bad actor, would you know, or would you see command and control? Do you have proper segmentation in place? What about east-west movement? Will you see data moving laterally within your environment, potentially? All of those things can work their way through on a network security assessment. There's traditional incident response. So again, the readiness assessment, or just retaining us for hours, that's fine. We do one-time compromise assessments. If you're taking over a new environment, or you're a new CISO or new CIO, and you want to basically get your arms around what you're inheriting, or you want a clean bill of health before you start really layering in your changes that you want to do, that's an option as well. Also in this contract vehicle, there's just blanket consulting hours. So if what you're thinking you may want to use this for doesn't really fit any of these buckets, again, this is just a sampling, you may avail yourself of some of the open consulting hours. And basically you can just call for, hey, I need someone with this level of expertise in this area, and we probably got that guy. And then we can just prescribe a rate, and you can just have that at your disposal if you want to use that. A lot of DHS cybersecurity resilience review, which is, again, a mandate for a lot of places. We've been able to work through that and really just help our clients get an understanding of where they're at, where they want to go. Security risk analysis and risk assessments, again, broadly speaking to the business, and narrowly speaking as well to cybersecurity specifically. A lot of policy and procedure review and development services. So everyone's got that policy and procedure stuff that's just probably collecting dust in SharePoint. That's okay. We've been able to basically operationalize that and freshen that up. And really, I think more importantly, is still establish a process where that stuff is reviewed and internalized on a regular basis to stay relevant. For us, that's your evacuation plan for the fire, right? So you should be practicing it. It should be a living, breathing thing. It should be something that you're very familiar with in practice. And PCI. So some of you may accept cards, some of you may not, or you handle payment information of some kind. Even folks that don't think they have necessarily a lot of PCI exposure, PCI risk is very real, and of course has tangible consequences when mishandled. So a lot of gap assessments around that. Hey, where am I at? Where do I need to be? We do full level 1 assessments. So establish a ROC, or report on compliance. A lot of PMP, a lot of policy and procedure review or templatization is common for our PCI services as well.
Great, thanks, Clayton. So now I'm going to jump back in and talk a little bit about how the pricing structure works under the Regional Cooperative Agreement. Each of those services that Clayton just went through has its own kind of price structure and price list, if you will. I've just pulled out a couple of examples for you all to see how it works. We didn't want to go through every single one of them, or we'd be on the phone all afternoon. So just pulled out a few that are a little bit different from each other. We'll run through those and what those parameters kind of look like. So for the most part, when we put this together, we tried to put together a small, medium, and large component or bucket, if you will. And we put some kind of descriptions there about what is a small, what is a medium, what is a large. And then we've also got kind of on the right-hand side, there's always going to be a timeline, which gives you a general idea of how long the project would be. And then also a fixed bid cost there. So this one in particular is for a HIPAA risk assessment. You can see at the service level, there's a few parameters around what constitutes a small, medium, or large, number of systems and network devices, number of personnel to interview, number of business associates that have access to EPHI data. So that's just kind of how we structured this particular one. I'll move on to the next example. This is for social engineering penetration testing. This was a little bit different, and I thought I'd bring this as an example just because it shows that this is kind of based on targets rather than devices or assets. So again, you see the first column, the number of targets, the second column is the timeline, and the third column is the fixed bid rate there. And this is for both phone testing and email testing. Next example would be a network security assessment. This is again a little bit different because it was only based on devices. So we've got our small, medium, and large, and then our timeline, and again, our fixed bid cost. This again is a little bit different from the others. So I wanted to share this incident response readiness assessment. So the small comes with a readiness assessment report. A medium is the readiness assessment report plus an incident response plan. And the large is the readiness assessment report and incident response plan, and with the addition of 5 run books. And then lastly, Clayton mentioned that we do have kind of buckets of hours. This was kind of created as a catch-all in case anybody needs some services that aren't included in kind of those fixed bid rates under those categories that we've already kind of mentioned above. Okay, so now how do you purchase off the RCA? First step would probably be best to contact me. I can provide you a copy of the RCA and the price list. Second, it would be beneficial for all parties if we could kind of review what you're interested in with Tevora. Usually I would kind of bring one of our consultants on, someone on Clayton's team or one of our other practice leads team to help determine, your size if you have questions, and just kind of walk through our methodology and just get you a little bit more familiar with our team. Next, I would go ahead and draw up a statement of work for the services that you selected, and that statement of work refers back to the terms of the regional cooperative agreement. You would then take that statement of work and the regional cooperative agreement contract to your procurement department. Then your procurement department would draw up a subordinate agreement off of the RCA for the services that we have selected. And then once all parties have fully executed the agreement, the project will be assigned to a Tevora project manager, who would be your main point of contact throughout the course of the engagement. They'll contact you to set up a project kickoff call, and on that call, we usually look at dates. A couple other questions that have just personally come up with me when I've been working with some other clients purchasing off of this particular contract, that I just thought I'd bring to bear here, just so that in case you have the same questions or get the same questions. We already mentioned this a little bit at the top of the webinar, but was the RCA competitively bid? This is very important to a lot of procurement departments, that we weren't just given this contract, that it was bid out through an RFP process. So yes, it was, and we were given the award. If you require your own master service agreement, are you wondering if we can sign that and also refer to the regional cooperative agreement? Yes, we can do that. So we would make mention of both agreements kind of in the terms of the statement of work. Can we have a separate business associate agreement with you as well? Answer to that is yes. And lastly, do you have to pay anything up front? No, the payment terms of the RCA are that Tevora will bill upon acceptance of each of the deliverables. So if you had 4 or 5 different services on the contract, at the conclusion of each of those services, we would bill you 100% for that service only. So that is that's it for us besides questions. So I'm just going to leave this slide up here so that you all can down my contact information should you need it. And then let me just open up the chat box. We don't have any questions yet, but why don't we just give it a minute or two here. And again, if you think of something later, please feel free to just give me a call. I actually probably should have put my email address here. I can read that off to you. It would just be ccurley, C-C-U-R-L-E-Y, at Tevora, Tevora.com. Give it one more minute for questions. Oh, here we go. Sorry, I missed the first few minutes. Will you be making the slides available? Sure. If you will go ahead and send me, anybody who wants a copy of the deck, please go ahead and send me an email. Again, it's ccurley@tevora.com. How was the agreement negotiated? There's another question here. Let me just get to it. How was the agreement negotiated? Who negotiated it? So this was, again, an RFP that Tevora responded to and won. So the actual terms of the contract were negotiated between Tevora and the County of Orange. Just for your edification, we didn't take any exceptions to their normal terms, so it would be a pretty standard agreement. The pricing was negotiated in, or not even negotiated, just presented in the RFP, and so that was part of the competitive bidding process. We did, however, after that, kind of just change the structure of the pricing a little bit. It was kind of confusing how it was laid out in the RFP. The pricing didn't change. We just kind of structured it a little bit differently with those small, medium, and large buckets that we were showing there earlier. I work for an agency in Los Angeles County. Could we pursue such an agreement? Certainly, or such an arrangement. I'm sorry, I misread that. So the intent of this regional cooperative agreement is that any agency can purchase off of it. So certainly, yes, you can either purchase off of this, or if you'd like to enter into a different sort of arrangement with us, absolutely, that's something we can discuss. Again, I would be your point of contact for that. Okay, someone's just giving me their email address here to send them. I will do that. Brian, I will send you the presentation. I think I've gotten through all the questions here. Okay, if there's no others, we'll go ahead and conclude for today. Thank you all so much again for joining us. And again, if you would need to reach out to me directly, my phone number is here on the screen, 858-361-7743. And my email is ccurley, C-C-U-R-L-E-Y. Thank you so much, everyone, and we'll look forward to hearing from you. Bye-bye.